What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden J here. What's going on, everyone? I hope we are all doing extremely well. I am most certainly doing very well. I get it. There's not a lot going around in the world of baseball right now. It is very unfortunate. But yeah, what's going on, everyone? Before we get into all of today's stream topics, please, everyone, feel free to like this stream. If you have any comments, questions, and concerns, please feel free to drop them down below. If you are new to the channel, please feel free to give this video a like, comment, subscribe, turn on those post notifications so you never miss one of these streams. So currently, we are really into pretty much more than a month. Much more. We're pretty much at the halfway point of January. And obviously, Major League Baseball operations have been extremely quiet. Nothing is going on really around them. Nothing is really going on in regards around Major League Baseball. It's really unfortunate. It really sucks. I mean, lately on these streams, we've really just been doing like Q&As for the most part. Like, I get it. There's not going on really anything around Major League Baseball. Just recently, and we know that it was more than a week and a half ago, the New York Mets have officially stated that they are going to be retiring Keith Hernandez's number 17. So that's a really nice tribute to him. I really do respect that. I think that is a great tribute to Keith Hernandez. Really not so much to talk about that. I mean, his number's retired. Cool, excellent. Not really much to say on that for the most part. But yeah, I mean, like I said, really baseball news has really been quiet. I mean, I'm trying to pull up Twitter and really see if anything's here. I mean, that's why I'm looking at here down here. Yeah, I mean, really everything's quiet for the most part. So I guess for the most part in today's stream, we're just going to be going over some comments, questions, and concerns, which is really what we've been doing for the most part these last couple weeks. You know, I like to do these streams, and it's just right now there is literally nothing to talk about. So, I don't want to stop doing these streams because I really enjoy these streams. I like coming on here and, having a great conversation with you guys. You guys have been leaving amazing comments and statements and questions. So, I definitely want to talk about that. But, I mean, yeah, I'm looking at Twitter, and Twitter seems very quiet. SNY put out a poll thing on saying what the Mets would look like in 2025. Yeah, that doesn't look very good. But yeah, I guess if you guys do have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to drop them below. I guess in the meantime, I guess we'll briefly talk about Keith Hernandez's number. So yeah, pretty much the Mets are retiring Keith Hernandez's number 17. Very excellent. We know that so far Steve Cohen is, kind of, we're not going to, just bash the Wilpons this whole episode and, praise Steve Cohen. But pretty much it seems that, and I'll give Steve Cohen this, is that Cohen is much more involved and much more interested in really respecting the past history of this team. We know the past history of this team was kind of neglected a little bit by the Wilpons. They never really honored many guys. Yeah, I get it. Guys like Seaver, Hodges, Piazza. Listen, yeah, I get it. Their numbers were retired under those guys. But I think being realistic, they could have retired more. I think Gary Carter is one to say. Gary Carter, unfortunately, passed away in 2012, I believe. His number was never retired. Arguably, it should be retired, and I still think it should be. But the Wilpons, I mean, the Mets organization back then, that wasn't really their priority. Their main goal was to focus on the team in the current stake, and I see where they're coming from, but I think it's definitely it makes it much more exciting. It makes the fan base much more exciting when you're honoring really the past history of a team. And there's so many guys who unfortunately won't be able to see their number get retired and show what the player did with this team. Gary Carter is I think the biggest and best example. He died 2012. He was unfortunately never able to see his number get retired. It is yet to be retired, but arguably, I think you can make a case down the line. It should definitely be retired. I see you guys are dropping a couple numbers, I guess, and people below who should be retired, and we'll definitely go over that. And arguably, I probably will wind up agreeing with some of you guys, most likely. But yeah, overall, I really just think the Mets organization just really just start honoring their past players. There's so many guys who, they're not going to be around forever. Listen, I get it. David Wright, that's a big one. Doc Gooden, that's a big one. David Wright, I feel he retired much more recent. So I think in terms of like number one right now, I think it would be Doc Gooden or Dwight Gooden, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, Wright was great, absolutely, and I definitely think his number should get retired. It's just he played his last game 2018, or if you want to go more than a series, 2016, 2015. So he still has time. He's young. He's not, he's around for a while. Doc Gooden, on the other hand, I believe he's in his late 60s, I believe 60s. So, I mean, he definitely has time, but I think it would be nice to retire Doc Gooden ASAP. I think that would be nice. I mean, what he did his rookie year was really astonishing, and I mean, we haven't really seen the Mets really have an amazing rookie like that, honestly, since, I mean, Pete Alonzo for the most part. So, I mean, just really good to see. Really just the Mets honoring their past history of their team. I think that's very important, and hopefully the Mets can take strong consideration of that going ahead. So yeah, that's really all I got. I guess we'll get into your guys' comments, questions, concerns. Really not much to talk about. I know they announced it like a week ago, but I just never really got to it. His number will most likely, I think it was July 7th or something. It's against the Marlins. So that is very good. And we'll see, back-to-back seasons with players' numbers getting retired. We saw this past season, Jerry Koosman, number 36, and now this upcoming season, number 17, Keith Hernandez. And I think it's more interesting because Keith Hernandez, yeah, he played in the 80s. And, I'm a younger fan myself. I was born 2002, so he was way before my time. But what I find more fascinating is that a lot of people know Keith Hernandez. And why is that? Because he's in the booth every day with Gary Cohen and Ron Darling. So you hear him talking, you hear him talk about, the style of the game, whether he helps out in a play-by-play, whether he's talking about what he would have done or managerial stuff. So I think it's really interesting that I think, Keith Hernandez is a different spot because let's say you're going to retire a guy like Darryl Strawberry. Not many people my age, would really know much about him. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the Mets history to an extent, so maybe I know a bit about him. But to the casual, maybe not so much so. So I think it's really interesting, really respect it. So what's going on, everyone? What's going on, Jack? What's going on, John? Michael, appreciate you guys tuning in. Trey, Camden Sports Cars, what's going on, man? Ibeen Dose, Marco, Camden Sports Cars says, let's freaking go. Absolutely. Martin, what's going on? Kobe, Daniel, Cal. Daniel with our first comment of the day says, owners won 14 teams in the playoffs. That's dumb. Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that. I've never really been really big on many of the rules that we had in 2020, with the exception of the DH. The runner on second base and extras, I don't mind to an extent, but I would want to reverse that. Maybe if you get into like the 15th inning, then you have that. 7-inning doubleheaders, I hated. Yeah, I get it. Guys are going to get tired and fatigue if you have a 9-inning doubleheader, but there's so much more to the game. And we know the Mets are a team that have a lot of comebacks in the 7th and the 8th and the 9th inning. So not so much for a personal reason, but, I like watching baseball. It's enjoyable. So why shorten it? But in terms of the 14, yeah, I mean, let's look at it. It's like you have 14 teams right now. I mean, that's like having the 2019 Texas Rangers who finished below 500 in the playoffs. Teams that are around 500, whether it's 2 games below or 2 games over, you shouldn't be in the playoffs. That's like saying, who was a team that finished around 500 this season? Then you really shouldn't be in the playoffs. Like, that's like saying the Guardians or Cleveland, whatever you want to call them, 80 and 82, just 500. Look in the NL. The Phillies, 92 and 80. That's really it for the most part. I mean, Reds could have had a shot because they were almost 5. But yeah, I mean, if you're hovering over 500, I really don't think your team should really be in the playoffs. I really do find that silly. Overall, yeah, I don't really think there's any say for it. I agree with you, Daniel, 100%. I think it is seriously foolish that they want this. I don't see. I mean, it's because they get more money. It's simple. It comes down to the line of money. Why else would you want more teams in the playoffs? You get more tickets. You get more revenue. You're selling more food, concession, whatever else people do at stadiums. So they're getting more money. But I think just for the perspective, I just think it looks so silly, so foolish that you're really just letting anyone in. I mean, yeah, 2020, okay, fine. You can make a say because it was such a short season. But, I really worry, is this going to be like the thing that comes down to ending the CBA? I don't think so. I think that'd be kind of silly. I mean, if anything, I'd be willing to let go of the DH if that gives leverage. But yeah, I just silly. I agree with you, Daniel. It's silly. Kobe, what's going on? Kobe says, really stinks to have back-to-back seasons where, with there being uncertainty of it starting on time, 100%. It's really unfortunate. Just last year, maybe last year MLB couldn't really control that, but now this year they can. And what really pisses me off and exasperates me is that no other sport has this. I don't really follow many other sports besides baseball to the extent, but I don't see any of this going on in any other sport. It's just baseball for the most part. I was coming on these streams a year ago at this time when we did our first stream, and we were saying, when the CBA, when they have the winter meetings, it's not going to look too good. And, I was hoping they could try and renew something before. They couldn't. Now we're in this situation. But it's just really unfortunate. Listen, I'm not saying the owners are fully responsible, nor are the players fully responsible. I think it's a mixture of both. But just regardless, you have two parties. They both have to agree on something. I just think it really just the narrative. I think majority of majority of baseball, the narrative itself is siding with the players, it seems. And, it's really tough to say. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, these guys are making too much. They're making too little. Minor leaguers are, being treated unfair, which to an extent I feel they are. It's really not much to say. What do I know about, the financial aspect of baseball, whether it's the luxury tax, whether it's, the free agency being from 3 or 4 years. Doses, when do you think the CBA lockout will end? Well, I was hoping, I was saying on these streams in the past that I was hoping that, what's today? I was hoping around, the 15th, 20th, 25th of January, I'm hoping it's going to end. And it seems each day goes by and those chances are getting slimmer and slimmer. And I think for the most part, sooner rather than later, if February 1st comes around and we don't have anything under control, I think that's going to be a little worrisome. I think it's going to be really worrisome. Can guys report to spring training? Can free agents report to spring training when it's going on? Absolutely. Bryce Harper did it. Manny Machado did it. Yes, they had all offseason to decide, and I just, it's more guys. So that's my only thing is MLB going to delay spring training because some guys are, I don't know. So, we'll see how that goes. For the most part, hopefully MLB could get something under control where spring training doesn't get delayed. I'd be annoyed for the personal reason because I am going to spring training. I'm going with the seven line army on the 27th of February to the Astros and Mets in Port St. Lucie. And then on March 3rd, I believe it is, I'm going to see the Mets and the Nationals in West Palm Beach at the Nationals facility. So I'm going to 2 different spring training games in the span of a week. And then, of course, I'm going to a lot of other games, non-Met games coming June. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But, it would be really unfortunate. I'm hoping, I don't know how often they're going to have meetings. The last meeting they had was last Thursday. And I just don't know, are they going to have meetings every 2 weeks? Because if that's the case, then, no way it's starting on time. But if they have it maybe weekly instead of bi-weekly or, every 4 days, I don't know. We'll see how they figure that out. Trey, what's going on? Trey says, did the Mets make a mistake not bringing back Stroman or not bringing Stroman back? Yeah, so, listen, when you look at Stroman, you look at two sides. Look at the emotional piece, and we're not going to get into that because that's personal with me. And then we have the baseball, the analysis part of Stroman. I really like, to an extent, of what Stroman did this season. He was really consistent. When DeGrom and majority of the pitching staff got fatigued or injured or missed a start, or if there was a doubleheader, I feel Stroman was one of the few guys that you could count on to go out there and give you, I don't know, maybe anywhere from 5 to 6 solid innings of baseball. I really had a lot of trust in Stroman. I really liked what we saw. The clubhouse thing, put that aside. But, the ground ball rate was there. He wasn't really getting the ball in the air, so there weren't really home runs, not much extra base hits with Stroman. The splitter slider, that sweeping splitter slider, which traveled really well, had a lot of swinging and misses. I really did like that. I felt that looked good. But right now, I just think it's going to come to the point where Stroman is, obviously, yes, he's going with the Cubs. I wish him the best of luck out there. You lose that 3 or 4 spot in this rotation. Obviously, yes, right now, you have DeGrom, you have Scherzer. That's great, but you need depth. We saw how urgent pitching was. And, in the second half, they got tired, they got fatigued. You got DeGrom, you got Scherzer. That's nice. Could Walker be a number 3? Absolutely, if he could not get tired and worn out. We know that the injuries in years past prevented him from pitching, so he got very tired pitching so high with his innings pitched, getting this high over 100. And then obviously, you have your younglings like David Peterson, Tyler McGill, still questionable. Those guys, in my opinion, were rushed up to AAA really, really quickly. And, they were kind of just placed. And, for the most part, we know that in 2020, David Peterson was rushed up because there was, everyone was hurt besides like DeGrom, and even he got hurt. So for the most part, everyone got really hurt. So they called David Peterson up. They rushed him up. They really did. Same thing with McGill. They rushed him up. If I were to send a guy back to AAA, it's probably Peterson. Just because he's developing so much more different. McGill, I liked what I saw out of McGill. He gave me more innings pitched than Peterson. That's a fact. He doesn't have many innings pitched in the minor leagues, so that's also another bit of worrisome. But I liked the consistency out of him in the 70% of the season. I liked his arsenal, his pitch mix. If he'd get knocked around an inning, he kept composure. He wasn't like a typical rookie or a guy like Steven Matz, screaming and throwing his hat. He really kept composure. I'm not saying Peterson didn't, but I think for the most part, Peterson still needs to work on those fundamentals. I think he obviously needs to work with Hefner. So we're going to have to see what goes on. Sports Fan says next, number 5, David Wright, 16 Gooden, 18 Strawberry, 8 Carter. We have to pay homage to those Mets, retiring their numbers. Mets for life. Absolutely, Sports Fan. I agree with you. Realistically, yes, I think all those guys have a really good chance on getting their numbers retired. In order, I would probably. Carter unfortunately passed away, so he wouldn't be able to see it regardless. But I think for the most part, I agree with you. I think David Wright had a phenomenal career. No one's worn number 5 since, so I think it pretty much makes sense that he is pretty much done. You have number 18, Darryl Strawberry, absolutely. Great Met. Gary Carter, number 8, absolutely. And then Doc Gooden, number 16, had an astounding rookie season that the Mets haven't had a rookie that amazing since, I guess, Pete Alonzo, 2019. So, really interesting to see. So we'll see. Like I said, luckily Steve Cohen should hopefully, for the most part, start to respect the past history of this team. Because, I get it, lull Mets. Oh, Mets have a lull Mets history. I get it. But there were plenty of bright times. There were plenty of good, colorful times that the Mets had. I've been dosed once, David Wright. Yeah, I could see that. David Wright, I think, is honestly, personally, my choice. I was born 2002. He debuted 2004. When I pretty much my whole childhood, I theoretically watched this dude. I remember, being like 5 years old and turning on SNY at like 7 o'clock, just watching him, Jose Reyes, typical gang. So, David Wright definitely hits a personal with me. EDM playlist, what's going on, brother? Appreciate you tuning in. Kobe says, what team do you think will have the worst record? Ooh, that's a good question. I like that question. In regards to right now, what team will have the worst record in 2022? So let's see exactly who had a cruddy record in 2021. So MLB standings 2021. So let's see who finished terrible. So as of right now, and we got 15 people in the chat. Appreciate you guys tuning in. So in terms of 2021, arguably, actually, we'll go to ESPN because they'll give it to me in chronological order, and that's just much better in my opinion. All right. So in terms of the worst record in Major League Baseball was the Arizona Diamondbacks, who finished with an astounding 52 and 110. Yeah, that's not too good. So they finished with that. Second, you had the Orioles. They were tied. So both 52 and 110. And then obviously you had the Texas Rangers, 60 and 102. So realistically, Rangers, I don't think they'll finish with 102 losses or this record anywhere. They got some pitching depth. Yes, they didn't get like an ideal rotation, but you have, a solid 1-2 adequate pitcher in there. I guess to keep things flowing. Who else do we have on here? So we have Orioles. Yeah, Orioles also are definitely, I still think are not really, I still think they're a 5th place team. Regardless, right now, in terms of the Orioles, we'll see if they call up Adley Rutschman. It's either this year or next year. Cedric Mullins looked nice. Their rotation's nothing fancy. I mean, Twins, I don't know what happened over there. They just had a collapse. I mean, honestly, I hate to be boring. Honestly, Pirates, I don't think the Pirates will finish with 100 losses. Right now, I mean, a lot of their prospects are being called up. Brian Hayes should definitely really have a breakout. Who else do the Pirates have? O'Neal Cruz, I really like what I've been seeing out of him in the minor leagues, and his really short stint with the Pirates. He looked really nice. We'll see. I mean, whatever their goal is this offseason. I mean, yeah, the Pirates aren't really going to be shopping, but they definitely have an opportunity to keep things going for the most part. So we'll honestly see how the Pirates go. Honestly, right now, I mean, I'm going to have to go to the D-backs. I mean, they really just don't. They're probably going to trade Ketel Marte most likely. I just don't look at their lineup and just see anyone fancy. I mean, yeah, maybe Nick Rojas is whatever. I mean, he could be a nice addition to a team, but I just don't really look at their lineup and say, "Oh, this guy looks really good." So I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. Mets made a mistake not re-signing Baez. Yeah, I mean, Baez was really one of the few consistent players for the Mets. He had an explosive half with the Mets when he came over here during the trade deadline. I mean, the strikeout rate decreased, the walk rate. He was being more of a fundamental hitter. My apologies, Josh Rojas. So I don't know, just completely different player, and I agree. I mean, I think regardless, it came up to lineup construction with Baez. I mean, but I think it came down to, if you get if you get a third baseman, and then so we'll see. John says the Wilpon wasn't Mets fans. That's the problem. Uncle Stevie's getting this right. Yeah, I mean, not to defend the Wilpons. I mean, realistically, they were not the ideal owners. But yeah, I agree. I think having the owner being a fan, I think has its pros and cons. Cohen, is he a baseball fan? Yes. But he's not going to be running around, with the analytical crew. Cullen just makes the moves. He signs the paychecks, and he goes up to Epler. He goes up to Alderson and says, what's the news? Brief me with what's going on. So that's really it for the most part with them. But yeah. Tracer, should the Mets sign Zach Granky to complete their rotation? Yeah, not really. I mean, Zach Granky, he did not really have a fair season this year. How old is Zach Granky? I mean, I don't even know what I'm going to get out of him. I mean, he's 38. He just turned 38. I don't really know what the point of signing. If it's like a 1-year deal out of the bullpen, I wouldn't really want him in the rotation, and he's not completing the rotation in any means. Maybe he can do like a nice bullpen role, like a Trevor Williams or something. The Mets actually still have him. I forgot. So yeah, maybe you can like a 2, 3, 4 inning guy in case someone leaves early, or if there's a double header, or someone misses a start, or whatever happens with the Mets. But realistically, I wouldn't really want him in the rotation. The long ball, the home run, the barrels, that was a huge thing with Granky this season that he struggled on. I mean, he's not really in his prime anymore, so I'm gonna have to pass. Kobe says, "Oh, GM, absolutely." Cal says, "What are your thoughts on extending Nemo, Alonzo, and DeGrom?" I'm all for it. In terms of calendar-wise, I would probably extend Nemo first, just because he is set to hit free agency sooner. Following October, or when this season ends, he's set to hit free agency. He is a Boras guy now. I'm not worried about that. The Mets have a good established relationship with Scott Boras. And it seems Nemo's a much different guy than a guy like Conforto. So yeah, I mean, I think Nemo would be the first guy to extend, obviously, just because the calendar-wise, he's set to hit free agency much sooner. Alonzo isn't set till, 2024, 2025. So you have a while with Alonzo. I have no problem giving Alonzo and Nemo 7-8 years. 7-8 years, I'd sign it right now. DeGrom, obviously, yes, you want to get DeGrom. I want to say 2023, he is set to hit the free agent market. So, I mean, we'll see, you have to see the contracts with pitchers is much different, and we've never really seen a guy like DeGrom to an extent, really a lot in Major League Baseball history, especially Mets history, whether it's the injuries or just his elite playing performance. So I couldn't really give you an ideal DeGrom extension, but I mean, Nemo and Alonzo were relatively easy 7 years. 8 years would be fair in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I'd extend Nemo, this offseason if you could. And then maybe Alonzo and DeGrom next. I mean, Marco says, whose numbers should get retired next? I think, yeah, David Wright, Doc Gooden are my big two. Tracer, should the Mets sign Carlos Rodon? I wouldn't be against it. Rodon's nice lefty. I mean, you really lack left-handed pitching in the rotation. Yeah, I get it. People like left. People say, oh, lefty righty doesn't matter in the starting rotation. It'd be nice because there's some teams out there which hitters struggle against lefties. The Mets. So you could always use that to your advantage. I don't really know Showalter's managerial style when it comes to that lefty-righty, lefty-on-righty stuff. I will see how he is about that, how he approaches that. I don't know his mentality for that, so we'll see. But I like Rodon. He has a solid pitch mix, great movement on his pitches. Nice lefty. You need a lefty. In terms of his player performance, he looked good. He got hurt at the end of the season. That's the only issue is he wants a long-term deal. He wants like 4 years. So, okay, maybe not a long-term deal, but a relatively long deal. He wants 4, 5, maybe 6 years. The issue is he's only played one season because the past 5 years he's been hurt. And that one season was 2021. So, I get very worried. And if the Mets were to sign him, I would want it to be on a short-term deal, maybe an option in, because just seeing him sign 5 years and then he comes into spring training and then boom, something happens. You can't have that. I mean, you worry about it with Carrasco. You have so many more concerns with pitchers getting hurt. I don't want to bring in another one that's reliable for a long term. I have no problem bringing in. Just long term is worrisome. EDM playlist says the D-backs are a fringe playoff team if they can get 1 or 2 more assets. Do you believe this statement? Who would be ideally those assets? Well, right now, I like Zach Gallen. Okay, I'll give you this. I think Zach Gallen, he's very young. He's shown some nice stuff. I really like what we've been seeing out of Zach Gallen. He's young to an extent. He's 26. So for, I guess, a pitcher, that's to an extent young. But right now, I look at the Diamondbacks roster and I just don't see anyone. Josh Rojas could maybe be a sneaky guy. Let's look at their roster. It's not like, their pitching okay, Ketel Marte, Josh Rojas. The acquisition of Mark Melancon is fair. Mark Melancon, everyone's like, oh, he's a great pitcher. Yeah, saves don't determine anything. Well, it does, but not as much as he's being viewed. The catching spot, Carson Kelly, I like him. I like him in that defensive role. Offensively, I don't really have much to say about Carson Kelly. Nice framer. Honestly, he wasn't that bad. For a catcher, OPS 754. Yeah, that's not horrific. Carson Kelly's all right. If you look at your infield, Nick Ahmed's okay. Josh Van Meter, Christian Walker. It's not like, oh, the Mets have to sign those guys or they're going to be, huge. Jordan Luplow, I think, was a pretty fair signing. I know they got him from the Rays. He could really be something down the line. He's relatively young. But right now, your outfield is nice. I like Josh Rojas. I like Ketel Marte. I like Jordan Luplow. But, the pitching. You look at the pitching. Zach Gallen's nice. I'll take Zach Gallen. I like Tyler Gilbert. He had that no-hitter last year, so that was pretty good. He really showed some signs. Bumgarner, I hate to say it, but I think he's past his prime. There's I know people are talking about, the Mets should trade with the D-backs. Well, besides Ketel Marte and, maybe a couple prospects, there's really not that much to get in return. Do I think they're 1 or 2 assets away? No, I really don't. Unless they're going out there and they're signing, Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer in some miracle, then yeah, I think they could definitely still be above 500, but I don't think they're a playoff team yet. I think they'll definitely be better than what they were last year. Like I said, I'm not an Arizona Diamondbacks prospect head, so I couldn't tell you much about their farm system, but they got a lot more to work on, in my opinion at least. Colby says, since the Mets lost Aaron Loup, the left-handed presence has been cut short. So can you see the Mets going after a guy like Andrew Chafin? Yeah, Andrew Chafin's all right. Problem with relievers is they're so streaky. They have a good year, then they have a bad year, then they have a good year, and then they're bad for 3 years or adequate, whatever. So that's the thing about relievers. Andrew Chafin really only had 1 good year, and it was this year, and I guess 2020 to an extent. Maybe if you're bringing big country short-term deal, it wouldn't hurt. But like I said, I'm not going to go out there and be like, oh, the Mets must sign Andrew Chafin. oh, it's their World Series thing. No. So, we'll see how that goes. I mean, like I said, I'm not an Andrew Chafin expert, but he has some nice stuff. I'll say that. He does show some nice stuff. So, I mean, we'll see. Daniel says, it sucks, Ella and Soto with it. Yeah, he signed with the Nationals. Yes, I did see that. That was very unfortunate. I mean, yeah, regardless, he's only like 15, 16. So, I mean, it's not like he's being called up. I mean, if you want to focus on the roster in 2025, yeah, maybe you can. But there's really not much to. Larry, what's going on, Larry? Larry says, Stroh was a diva, no thanks. Clubhouse was. Yeah, I agree with you. The clubhouse was really a big thing last year, Larry. And I think for the most part, I think that's really what kind of crushed this team. I think it definitely had a partake with the offensive production. I think McNeil and Lindor are two examples with the whole clubhouse fight. I think that worsened McNeil to an extent, not fully. But the clubhouse was terrible. I mean, we saw Stroman's Twitter shenanigans. I mean, he blocks everyone, including me, even though I've never messaged him. So, Stroman, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. I don't know what I did. But, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Larry. MLB Chowderbox, appreciate you tuning in, brother. Hope you're doing well. Ice Cube, what's going on, man? Appreciate you tuning in also. He says, like it or not, it will take multiple meetings before the owners and players to come to a decision. If they can't agree before the season, hopefully they'll bring back the old CBA. Yeah, that's what I was honestly thinking. I was thinking, could they just extend this collective bargaining agreement and maybe look at it, next year at this time? But then we're just going to have the same thing next year. So, I mean, I agree with you. When everyone's saying, oh, they're meeting on Thursday. Yay. Well, yeah, that's not going to, doesn't mean anything's getting closer. It's progress. It means they want to start, but not fully. I mean, hopefully I'm hoping it depends how often they have meetings. I mean, if they're going to have meetings every 2 weeks, how much can you get done? But, maybe with spring training coming up, with February coming up, it's going to put more pressure on them. Financially, they're going to lose some money. Right now, they're really not losing much. So, what's going on? What's going on, Coach? Coach Dante, what's going on? Marco says the Mets should keep their prospects and not have any trades, get players via free agency. I agree with you, man. Daniel says, great to see Brett Batty being the best third base prospect on base on MLB. I did see that. Really impressive compared to guys like Torkelson, so that's really good. Mets need a third baseman that they could rely on and have long term. Baseball's mayor, what's going on? He says, can't wait for baseball to start. I agree. Trey, what's going on? Trey says, with this team now, the Mets need to win in 2022 or 2023. Then it's semi-bust only because there are some big long-term contracts on there, and the Mets have to put themselves in position to do so. Yeah, I mean, it's really going to be interesting. We'll see how that goes out. I mean, like I said, Mets always have high hopes, and then something happens. So I agree with you. I mean, with the money you're spending on these guys, I mean, with Scherzer's contract, I mean, you have a lot of short-term contracts, but Lindor contract especially, you want to get to the postseason at least. Sorry about that. AB, what's going on? AB says hello. What's going on? Ice Cube says, which team will win in the NL West? I have the Dodgers. I believe the Dodgers will win. Giants, you're losing Bryant. I mean, I'm not saying the Bryants are a one-year wonder. Absolutely not. But I don't know. I mean, you lost Posey. And a lot of their veterans are another year older. So we'll see. I mean, I definitely think they're an above 500 team, 100%. But I think the Dodgers, I mean, they're going to make some moves. Call up some of their prospects. Jose, what's going on, man? Appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, Trey, I agree with you also. I mean, health is definitely something. That's really always been the thing with the Mets, especially this past season. Yeah, Josh Rojas, my apologies. Sports fan says, who should be the number 5 starter for the rotation? As of right now, the 5th starter for the Mets rotation, I would like to say Tyler McGill. I don't want to have to put full trust on a guy who's playing his first full season in a spot. Maybe a guy like David Peterson. I mean, Luke Hazy won't be starting, but he's obviously more of a bullpen role. I guess Tyler McGill would really be your best bet. Maybe Peterson. Maybe if you really make out another pitcher, you could get Carrasco in that spot, because I forgot you still have Carrasco. Daniel says they should not punish any team spending money with the luxury tax. They should punish the teams that does not spend money. Yeah, I mean, listen, if teams like the Orioles or Pirates or perennial losers aren't going to go out there and spend money, well, then, that's their choice. But I agree with you. And I'm not saying the Pirates and Orioles are perennial losers. They were in the postseason, what, 5 years ago? Yeah, 4 years ago. LFGM, what's going on, Kobe? And Traces hope the Mets land Bryant. Yeah, I hope so too, man. Hope so too. All right. So, yeah, if anyone else has any more comments, questions, concerns, please feel free to drop them below. We'll probably call it a stream a little bit. So if you guys have any comments in regards to the Mets, the Braves, the Mariners, the Diamondbacks, feel free to drop it below. Like, I get it right now. There really isn't much going on in baseball world. I mean, it's really unfortunate. I get it. Content has been really tough to make. I mean, I know the Mets have been, signing some they got some bench coaches these last couple days. So, I made a couple videos in regards to the first, the third, the bench, and the new hitting coach. So the Mets do have their coaching staff set, so that's very good. You'll have Wayne Kirby at first, Joey Cora at third. Glenn Sherlock will be coming back for reunification as the Mets bench coach. And then you will still have Jeremy Hefner as the pitching coach. And then, of course, you'll have Eric Chavez as the new hitting coach. So, otherwise, with the Mets, like I said, not much has been going on. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Absolutely. Kobe, Cal, Mark, Daniel. Daniel says, I hope Freddie Freeman leaves the Braves. Yeah, I mean, that'll definitely help out the Mets a little bit, depending on if he goes to anywhere else but the NL. Rick and Morty Men says, I say we grab Bryant and a solid bullpen pitcher. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I mean, Bryant would be nice. I think that'd really just be the cherry on the cake for the offseason. Maybe one or two more bullpen arms. The bullpen is something. I mean, it depends who you get. I mean, if you get a guy like Chafin or, a really high known guy, that could really help out. But yeah, Bryant, I mean, we go over Bryant pretty much every stream. So Bryant is nothing new. I love what we could get out of him, whether it's the utility, whether it's the ability to hit lefties really well, so much more. I mean, Bryant is just a guy who can give you 25 homers, 75 RBIs. You know it. He could play third. He could play first if you need Alonzo to have a day off. He could play center. He could play left. He could play right. He could practically play any position. He hits well against lefties, low velocity, fastballs, all that stuff. I mean, what is there not to like? Yeah, he's not in his prime. I get it. But he's still a really good player. So, I guess we'll probably call it a stream, everyone. If anyone else does have any more remarks. Otherwise, that's really all I got. So I guess, next stream, I'll probably be doing a stream next week. We'll see. Hopefully, hopefully stuff with the Mets can go on. I'm trying to see if there's really any other news to go over. MLB news. Just like GM. Minor league stuff. For the most part. Oh yeah, Cal says, do you follow any college or major league or minor league baseball? So I do not follow college baseball really. I mean, I know about teams like Vanderbilt. I'm somewhat familiar with college ball. Minor league ball a little bit. When it comes to the Mets farm system, I do follow it a little bit. Just because I want to try and get more into, the farm system and prospects. So I have been, to an extent, following it a bit more, but not as much as Major League Baseball. Who is your favorite Met? My favorite Met right now, Pete Alonso, all time. I got to go Tom Seaver. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in to the stream. If you have any more comments, questions, concerns, when am I getting back together with the boys? We're still doing the streams weekly. Otherwise, that's really it. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, feel free, if you are new to the channel, hit that like button, turn on those post notifications. If you are new to the channel, like I said, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. Don't forget, give this video a like, comment, subscribe, all of that great stuff. Tell your friends about this channel. And yeah, I guess I will see you guys next time. I did upload a video in regards to yesterday to the New York Mets bringing back Glenn Sherlock, so please feel free to check that out. Otherwise, that's all for me. Till next time, baseball fans, see ya.